who are some guys at current ADP that you like, and guys that you are fading? I want to start off, I guess, to not to put words in your mouth, but I do need to know: is Bijan Robinson, is his ADP too high for you at 13?
It is, and not in a way that I feel totally safe fading it. I have some amount of anxiety of the idea of having no Bijan Robinson shares because I do think he's going to be very productive. I don't think it's a question that he's going to be some version of very productive, but at this price, and we're talking like he often goes in the top 12, stuff like that. You routinely will see him going ahead of Jonathan Taylor, like a slew of
Mm.
guys who like just were running back, one overall types were are going well behind him, and that's something that I don't feel comfortable about. Even if he goes to some team with a clear starting like three down role, like I don't think Bijan Robinson is as good of a prospect as Jonathan Taylor. I don't think he's as good of a prospect as Nick Chubb. Don't. I'm not convinced that he's better than Saquon Barkley. You'll see him go ahead of all of those guys, especially in it. I mean, it's especially notable in the case of Taylor and Barkley because they otherwise are on that first round kind of turn. Chubb goes much later. Not that I understand why that's the case. I would project Chubb ahead of Robinson this year right now, and part of that's on the basis of just I think Chubb's the better player, but part of it too is that um, like not to turn this into a Chubb cast, but Kareem Hunt's a free agent, and the whole reason anyone ever faded Chubb in the first place was like, well, Kareem Hunt's better. He's so awesome at passing downs. You don't know anything. And now Kareem Hunt's not doing anything, and he's not there, and Chubb's price is lower than ever. And like, what happens if Deshaun Watson's even 85% of what he was in Houston? Chubb is like MVP candidate if that happens. So he's going too late, and between him, Taylor, Barkley, sometimes all going later than Bijan. I just don't expect myself to draft Bijan unless I'm in a draft where he just simply slips much lower than he usually does. And I hope I get an opportunity to do something like that. But in the meantime, I think I'm comfortable just sitting this out because I know his price isn't going to get lower necessarily, especially if he goes in the first round. But um, people are supposing things about him that at best they know nothing about, and I think in some cases are demonstrably just not true. And as long as people believe things that aren't true as underpinning reasons for the things that they believe in, the in this case the money they spend in fantasy drafts, I don't want to participate in that market because I just I don't think it's lucid.
I think that there's just like some draft truisms that
There's
are
a
like.
void of understanding, and it gets filled with a combination of like carnival barkers and like well-meaning people who just like don't really necessarily know that much, and then you get like a third category that reinforces the other two on the basis of attributing consensus or elite consensus to either of the two, and so you get like in this case, I guess an interesting example would be I was probably too dismissive of the guy initially, but Roshan Johnson is getting a lot of. I think he's like the running back 16. I ranked him a little too low in the pre-comment. I ranked him at like 18 or something. But you're seeing a lot of hype for him to go in like the first rounds of like dynasty rookie drafts, and like they're saying he's going to go ahead of all these other guys who, to me, have already demonstrated like clear round two kind of credentials. And this is a guy who was a backup his whole career. And I know some spectacular guy out there is probably waiting to say, like, do you know who Priest Holmes is? And yes, I know who Priest Holmes is. But if you're banking on another Priest Holmes happening, and that's the kind of exception magnitude we're talking about here, you're getting something more likely otherwise than that, and something that you're not uh, keeping in mind as a possibility, which is that maybe he was a backup, and not just a backup. Not just that Bijan Robinson was ahead of him, but Roshan Johnson was not reliably separating from that other guy, that fast one that they had on the bench. I can't remember his name. It's kind of funny spelled name. I remember.
Keelan Robinson.
No, the other one. It's like Jonathan maybe something.
Mm.
But anyway, uh, Roshan Johnson has no conventional excuse for having the workload that he did in college, and not having better numbers to show for it than he did, and still great as like a serious prospect in the first four rounds. You can find guys like Samaje Perine He held off Joe Mixon when he was at Oklahoma. There's no even if it's an example of a running back having a superior uh, on their team, it's not a basis for being as inactive as it's not a justification for being as inactive as Johnson was, because we got a case like P Ryan, probably not as good as Joe Mixon. He didn't get turned into a 6 carry per game player. Keontae Ingram ran ahead of Roshan Johnson when he was at Texas. So these are all things to keep in mind uh, that I think indicate heavy precedent, like really, really reliable multi-decade stuff.
Yeah.
And yet, because there's all these people who are just kind of saying like, actually, Roshan Johnson's going to be great, and it's a combination of two things. I think one is just the general. A lot of people like this dynasty thing to be like some kind of mystic quest kind of thing, where they're all going on a like a Fellowship of the Ring kind of thing, where we're going out into this fun magical world where we find out unlikely novel stories or whatever, and they need it to be more complicated than it actually is. Looking at tape of him and being like, well, he looks kind of like this one guy when he breaks this one tackle, and then there's this other thing that came out about the number of missed tackles that he generates per touch or whatever. So that, basically, a misunderstanding of proprietary metrics that are poorly tabulated. Those two things are leading to Roshan Johnson being widely considered like a like it's near consensus already that he's a top 5 rookie in this draft. And John, that's hilarious.
No, that ain't it, Chief. And then one last lingering thought on Bijan. I don't like giving myself no room for profit with my early draft picks, and especially if like it's something that's been relatively unproven, or in this case, a rookie. Like there's this. It's going to be so hard if you take him at 12 or 13 to like profit fully off of that. So
Yeah, so that's Bijan. It's the case, but sorry. So Roshan, I would not participate with his ADP market, but the guys who you want to get at the rookie running backs to me are pretty clearly Devin Achane, who people are writing off because of his frame or whatever,
yep,
and then
146.
Zach Charbonnet, who is what a lot of people are trying to see in Roshan Johnson. Basically,
Yeah.
it's just there in Charbonnet's case.
I do love Charbonnet. I'm glad that
Charbonnet, sorry.
you're in on him as well. Like my favorite Steely Dan song, "Get Along, Kid Charlemagne." Charbonnet, yes,
John, the other two,
really
Ty
good
J
for that one.
Spears was like 155 in the ADP the last I looked. He's never going to get higher than that, so don't participate in that one. And the other one I think is going to slip is Tank Bigsby, who people are taking rank like preseason running back rankings, and drafting based on that. They're taking Bigsby too high.
Like I feel like Bigsby got a raw deal at Auburn, but
He's a
at the
solid
same,
player. He's just like a I don't know, like to me he's a round 5 kind of guy.
yeah, like it. There was the deck was stacked against him these last 2 years, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But even still, like there's only so much that you can forgive basically in that profile. Quickly, a 1 minute snippet, Mario. Where are you on one Keishon Butte at 134?
That's a little high for me. I like in Dynasty, I have fewer concerns than in redraft. There's a case for plenty of concern in both, but uh, I worry about Butte in redraft and best ball scenarios a little bit more because um, we don't know where he's going to get drafted, and I think his talent is pretty clearly demonstrated, but the level of immediate opportunity is not. And at 130 or so, I feel like you're banking on him playing, like you're betting that he's going to play 700 plus snaps as a rookie, and I don't know if we can take that. Like if he falls into the second on the basis of like character concerns, it could end up in a rich get richer kind of scenario for some team that already has pretty good receivers, and then they're like, oh, look at this, we got him as our wide receiver 4, and now no one can stop our passing game. Like I worry about that kind of thing with Butte, whereas with the other guys, they're going to get drafted so high that whatever team takes them has to give them pretty
Right.
much a 3 down roll right away.
Yeah, so he's a really interesting case in that respect, and of course it'll be really interesting to see how he performs at the combine. But yeah, like you said, there is potential for him getting dinged for the character concerns. Oh, he deleted things off his social media after he got 3 targets against Florida State.
Yeah, he wanted to leave there. By the way, he had a lot of problems with with the team this year, and so I wouldn't go calling his production like entirely attributable to him. Like he lost a little bit, yes, but like there was problems on that team. Also, real quick, the receivers I really like on Underdog. Tyler Scott, he's really glaring value right now, and I think Xavier Hutchinson's a good one in the 20th round too.
Yep, those are 2 interesting guys. I definitely want to talk a little bit more about Hutchinson next week as well. But that's going to round it out for our Underdog segment. And again, go ahead, sign up at Underdog using that promo code RWNFL. Get your first deposit matched up to $100. Get that free 6-month RotoWire subscription. That's a pretty sweet deal.